And it's fascinating as well because all of this is highly inflationary too, which is a headache that policymakers globally are attempting to deal with. Actually, Goldman Sachs says oil prices right now are entering political intervention territory. So if OPEC can't act to stop 100 USD oil, are we going to see perhaps more pressure coming from the Americans to do something, or even a policy response again from the United States, perhaps additional SPR releases or efforts by the administration to try and jawbone this price lower, given how concerning it is when it comes to inflation and the cost at the pump for consumers stateside and elsewhere around the world?
I think we could. I mean, if anything, we saw some of the rhetoric and language when prices were 80, when they were $80, and the SPR release sort of closer in that range. And so, again, we could see more SPR releases. I think there's a diminishing return from some of those efforts, and we are finally starting to see a little more production out of the U.S. We're moving away from that just sort of increasing profits. But ultimately, I think some of the real challenge is that the global economy sort of, did bounce back, despite my sort of worries about what's going to happen going forward with growth. And then when you think about it from an inflation perspective, I'm probably more worried about the natural gas markets and about some other commodities, especially food prices, where, we're starting to see high power and gas costs are starting to reduce fertilizer output. And then you throw on export restrictions from Russia and a whole variety of things, irrespective of the political issues. And so I think we're going to start seeing more pressure on a range of governments to act either by cushioning the impact on consumers or by trying to incentivize it. I do think the U.S. administration is much more focused on trying to wrangle the troops around natural gas supplies than oil. But attention will turn back to that. The problem is there aren't a lot of easy solutions. And with the increasing tensions with not only with Russia, but especially bilateral relationship with China, it might be a little more difficult to get that coordinated SPR release. And as I say, at the end of the day, an SPR release is a drop in the bucket. So really, I think it's going to sort of come down to whether OPEC addresses these issues of sort of further rebalancing within some of the few countries that can continue to boost production.